has been granted money transmitter licenses in 3 U.S. states.
Does that make them like a payment processor, or I don't know what that license is exactly?
I don't know. I guess Twitter's been granted a money transmitter licenses. They've applied in all 50 states, so they're still waiting on 47. But they've been granted in 3 states. So I guess, yeah. They might be able to not have to use a third-party money processing company or something.
Well, I know that's definitely what Elon wanted. He didn't want to be beholden to a payment processor, so if Twitter gets to be the processor.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be trying to become a PayPal competitor.
Yeah. Which would be so funny since he helped start PayPal, so...
Yeah.
Also, hey, Sketchbook.
Of course now... Yeah, hey. Of course now, like, you know, PayPal, like, cancels people's accounts if they don't like what they say and things like that.
I know. Which kind of sucks that is the primary bank account system that I use. I need to come up with another one. Other than, like, I need a local credit union that functions more like a bank. Because not every credit union does, like, the full, like, debit and stuff in the same way that a bank does. Because some of them are too small, right? And I don't like big banks. I'm not against small banks. Small banks are fine. But I prefer credit unions, just because everybody who's in it has a stake in it, and they're non-profits, and I don't worry about them, like, fucking me over or anything like that. But until then, my primary account is PayPal right now, which I'm waiting on my replacement card. I never got my replacement card from PayPal. They sent it to the old address back when I was living with Buck. And it's like, I haven't been at that address in like 2 years or more, maybe. I don't even remember when it happened. Yeah. But like, why did you send it there? I removed it from my account and everything. It was like, okay, we'll send it to your new address. But I'm not going to get it till the 13th when I won't even be here. Somebody else is going to have to just leave it on my desk. I'm going to be off house sitting and pet sitting for people next week, which also, heads up, I don't even know if we're doing Saturday show or not, because it just happens that they're leaving on Saturday, so I'm going to have to be there that day, and I don't know if they'll be leaving soon enough for me to set up all my stuff to run the show on time. I don't know, maybe we'll have to do it Sunday. We'll talk about it. Yeah. Hey, Fitzjozo.
Well, I'm on my final push to lose weight before Anime Matsuri.
You can do it!
So, I'm actually down. I mean, it's obviously all water weight, but down about almost 5 pounds in the last week.
Did you increase your salt content?
I doubt you can tell. Did I increase? Well, I had kind of a salty pizza for lunch.
No. Well, you know, we were talking salt.
We'll see. Not
only helps you get rid of that water weight, but it also increases your body's sensitivity to insulin, which means you can handle sugars better and it actually helps you maintain a lower weight.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. 5 pounds in the first week. We'll see how the second week goes.
So I always tell people who try to lose weight, they should switch their primary snack, because it's actually okay to snack, believe it or not, to jerky. One, because jerky's expensive, so you're not going to let yourself eat too much of it anyway. And two, it's salted meat, which is great. It makes your body feel a lot fuller than like almost anything else you could eat, because a lot of snack cravings are actually just protein. It's like your body wants protein. Sometimes it just wants salt. And because you're not giving it salt or protein, you just end up eating and eating because it's not getting what it wants anyway. It just knows it needs something in it. And you end up solving that problem by eating like jerked meat.
Well, I have pepperoni. I like that.
Okay. Yeah,
so
that's a salty meat.
Almost the same thing.
Yeah.
What I use for a snack. I got these almonds, and I usually get the, it's called like Smokehouse. It's a really nice flavor. They didn't have that at the grocery store this time, so I tried vinegar and their salt and vinegar. It's disgusting. I can't eat them. I'm gonna have to just throw them away. I tried a couple. I was like, oh, these are awful. It's terrible. But I'll get the Smokehouse ones. Those are very salty.
See, before the show, I had a classic snack, sour cream and onion Lay's potato chips.
That sounds good.
Yeah. And honestly, potato chips, if you get something that's not overly processed, actually, that's a bigger problem with most of our food is that we eat so much overly processed stuff. But like if you made potato chips yourself or found a kettle cooked brand or something that's not too processed, they're not bad for you, right? Like it's a lot of starch, but it's also a lot of salt, and you end up like burning it off immediately. It's an okay snack. It's all like the sunflower seed oils and all that other crap that they put on modern chips. That's the big problem.
Well, I try to avoid chips, but
Yeah.
I do like pepperonis and cheese as a snack.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
I think you can do it. You just got to be diligent.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I'm your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
God, I look so red, but it's because I keep, I'll go outside for a minute, and it's 108 out, and it's just like, just instant overheat.
Oh, dude, I know. Like, it's not that hot here. No, it was recently. We've had luckily a very cool Independence Day, 4th of July. I think it only got up to 80 something yesterday, which is miraculous. It got up to 97 today, so we're heading right back into that trajectory. But no, it was pretty nice yesterday. And it was even nice this morning, but I still ended up kind of overheating, despite it being like 76, almost 80. I had to mow the lawn, and our lawnmower fucking sucks. And I keep letting the lawn get just a little bit too high, and it keeps stalling on itself, and it's taking me for, it's almost like pushing a brick wall. I get more of a workout mowing the lawn because how bad the lawnmower is than actually using the weights in the other room. Right?
Yeah.
It's nuts. I was so tired afterwards. I took a cold shower immediately, and normally I don't take cold showers in the summer because I usually do conditioning, so I take hot showers in the summer, cold in the winter. But I took a cold shower, and I passed out, and I slept 30 minutes past my alarm. I got up like 30 minutes later. I didn't even notice my alarm went off.
Yeah. Well, I woke up early this morning. I had to go pick up Peach at the airport. She was visiting a friend in California, and on the way back, or just as we were driving through the parking garage, somebody had stalled out, like their battery was dead or something.
Really?
So I did my so I did my good deed for the day. I gave him a jump start, and it worked. So I saw they were struggling, and I was like, "You guys need help?" And they're like, "Oh, please give us a jump start." So luckily, they had the cables. I need to get cables for my car.
Everyone should have a set of cables in their car. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that was my good deed. I felt good about myself.
There are certain things that everyone should just keep in their car. Cables are one of them. At least a standard tool set so you have something to work with should be in there. A flashlight should be in there. A first aid kit should be in your car too.
Yeah.
Probably a blanket. That's kind of hit or miss. That's not necessary. I think people should have a blanket. Or at the very least, like a beach towel, something that can work as both a towel or a blanket if necessary. And kitty litter. Now, there are other things you can use aside from kitty litter, but people don't understand how good kitty litter is at absorbing moisture. It is good if you get stuck in the snow. It is good if you get stuck in the mud. Actually, it can even work if you get stuck in a sand trap, too. Because it has more grit than the sand you're in, and you can just pour it in, and you'll probably get your car out of it. Kitty litter is like the one-stop fix to your tire being stuck in something, and people should have that in their trunk.
Yeah. I was thinking, what do you use it to put out a fire or something?
I mean, you could. It would do that tuld, but there's another good thing for the towel. Like, if you have your towel, especially if you dampen it first, and there's like a small fire, you can actually just put the fire out with the towel. A beach towel might actually be better than a blanket. That's my go-to is the beach towel.
Well, I doubt I'll be stuck in snow anytime soon, but I could get stuck in sand.
You could. And if you get that like gritty kitty litter, it actually has more grit than the sand, and your tire will probably get out. It'll finally grab something and it'll start moving.
Cool.
Yeah. Though sand is still the easier one. If you have water in your truck or anything like that, because some people keep it. They used to be worried about your radiator, though that's not as much of a problem as it used to be with the way cars are built now. If you put water in the sand underneath your car, it'll become somewhat like mud, have a little bit more grit than the sand, and you'll get out. As long as it's not like too muddy, like you're in a swamp or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should keep water in my car too.
Yeah.
But it'd be warm. It'd be really hot, actually.
You know,
all the time.
If you get stuck in the desert, it's better to have hot water than no water.
Yeah. What do you think I'm driving to? The grocery store is literally.
I don't know, man.
Away.
You never know. You never know.
It's about as far as I drive.
You know, the term is like plan for the worst, hope for the best, right? Yeah. I'd rather go to the woods and not need my knife than forget my knife at home and then need it.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned earlier before we started that I'm already addicted to Pikmin 4, and I've only been playing the demo.
Oh, yeah?
It's pretty cool if you like Pikmin.
What's the part you like the most about it?
Mostly that it's very similar to Pikmin 3, which I found extremely fun, but just new areas, and it's just all these different areas. Plus, they brought back the underground areas. I guess we're in 1 and 2.
Yes,
one of those.
Yes.
Or both?
I think they were 2.
Okay, yeah. So there's underground areas where you pick up more Pikmin and you fight unique enemies. It's pretty cool. There's little mini missions in there. Plus, there's ice Pokemon or Pokemon. Ice Pikmin now. So
Pikmin might be a Pokemon. We're not sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Like Eevee, they can be like any type.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're just like Eevee. They're all very similar, but with slightly different types. So, yeah, I don't know if the full game is available yet, but I'm definitely getting it.
I don't think it is. I think that was just a demo, like to let you be prepared. I haven't heard that it's out.
Let's see, July 21st. Oh, pretty close.
Okay, so soon.
A couple weeks.
I probably won't be getting it then, just because of finances. But I'm not going to play the demo because I do plan on getting the game, and I'll just play the whole thing when I get it.
Yeah. Well, it's cool.
Yeah.
And the graphics are fantastic. Just like 3, I was always blown away by the realism of all the the backgrounds and the fruit and the enemies and everything. Just
I think it's
so
like
vivid.
Really easy to make that look good because of the scale, right? Since everything's really small, it's like bringing your camera down to the actual grass level, and you could put detail in every individual object. Yeah.
Yeah, like all the little fruits and parts and all the things that you can pick up are just very detailed. And the onion works a little bit differently than it did in Pikmin 3, but similar in that, depending on what type of Pikmin you bring, like a dead enemy to, that's the type that the onion will create more of.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it looks a little different, but also, what was the other thing about it? Oh yeah, so like instead of like in Pikmin 3, you can like from the very beginning, you can have up to 100 Pikmin with you at all times if you have that many. In this one, you have to grow your onion bigger and bigger in order to have a bigger party. So that's an interesting dynamic.
It's almost like playing any classic RTS where you have to build more quarters to be able to house more troops.
Yeah, exactly. So you can have as many as you want, but they'll stay in the onion.
Yeah.
Up, until once you've maxed out your party, I guess. But it's cool.
We need more
and it has all these other side missions too. It's pretty cool. It's fun. I don't want to give anything else away, but
Well, I mean, it's a
It's
demo.
fun.
I don't even know how much you can
yeah,
give away.
that's
But
true. Yeah, they're these little guys that you'll find, these funny guys that like have like these odd faces that will lead you into a different area where they'll do a little a challenge, like a mini quest to try and clear an area in a certain amount of time. And if you do it, they'll give you they'll give you some more materials or whatever. So
yeah. So I noticed something. I can see both your lights in your TV, which I think we've noticed before.
Yeah.
But because of the layout of them, it almost looks like there's like a monster behind you in the darkness, just like looking and waiting to pounce.
yeah,
Yeah.
I should move my, I don't know, so.
Yeah, no. But so maybe we should get on to the main thing I want to talk about, which actually isn't news.
Yeah.
And it is talking about specifically Game Pass, but you could probably lump PS Plus in there. Which recently, after you found out how it works, you're a little less happy with than you were before. I know that.
Well, the PlayStation Plus,
Yes, with the PlayStation.
because I have
Plus.
PlayStation. Yeah, I didn't realize that if you let your PS Plus membership lapse, that you lose all except the monthly games.
Yeah. Which is still
Like
better
the temporary.
than when I was doing PS Plus back on the PS3, because you would lose basically everything except for the We're Sorry games, because we let your credit card information go away.
Yeah, but the monthly games suck. I don't know that I've ever downloaded any of them. They're always terrible. It's the ones in the sort of standing catalog that they keep adding to. Those are great. I mean, I got like every Dragon Quest game that's been on the PS4 or 5.
Yeah.
All kinds of Stray, Final Fantasy 15, the full Royal Edition or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's awesome. Even if I let it lapse, I've still got those games forever.
Is GameFly still a
virtually
thing? I
free.
have no fucking clue if GameFly is still a thing. Oh, yeah.
But no, if I stop paying, I lose all those games.
Yeah. Hey, Rick.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna stop, but still, it's disconcerting.
Well, that was my thing. So I started using PS Plus back in 2011 or 12, right? It was back in the PS3 era. And to me, it seemed like a pretty good deal. It was like I only had to pay, I think it was $60. It was like $60 for the whole year, right? And you got all kinds of cool things with it. It wasn't mandatory or anything like that. You got PlayStation Online for free anyway back in the PS3 days. I think now you have to pay. That was like one of the big deals of the PS4s. You had to pay to play online. But you got a lot of cool stuff. Like the Simpsons arcade game was on there. All kinds of little knickknacks and stuff like that. Games that you didn't even know you wanted to play again. But at the end of the year, I think in 2014, I let it lapse. And I went to go play my games. And I couldn't play the Simpsons arcade game anymore. I'm like, what? It's on my device. Right? A device that I don't even have to pay to play online. Right? But I'm not even connected to the internet right now. And they're like, the internal clock that said your account wore off, and we need you to log in and let us know if you've renewed your account before you can play that game. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I have to. Yeah, I mean, obviously mine's online all the time, but it has to check in like once every 7 days.
Yeah.
To renew the license. Yeah. DRM. Of course, I shouldn't complain. It's like it's fairly cheap to get all these free games. So.
Yeah, well, that was the real thing I wanted to talk about, right? Bringing up Game Pass with that. And it's like, I am not certain, but I'm leaning in the negative that these type of systems aren't that good for the longevity of game development. which means I also don't think it's good for the consumer in the long run either. I could be sold either way, but I'm just not sure. And you even brought it up when we were talking before. Grums has a lot of opinions on it. I think widely I agree with some of the opinions I've seen from him. And obviously, being a very experienced veteran developer, his viewpoint on it is a very valid one to consider, because he would have information that a lot of the like random player may not have. Right.
Yeah. And he did, I mean, not exactly a deep dive, but he looked up how much had been paid out to developers over how long a time and how many developers. And I forget what the final amount was, but it seemed really small. Now, some developers get more and some get less. You know, obviously the big AAA games probably get the lion's share, but it seemed like they're not getting very much from Game Pass overall.
And this isn't a problem for either Microsoft or Sony companies that are bought or like subsidiaries of them, because they are still getting, I mean, all the companies get paid to make their game first, but you need your certain return on investment. But Microsoft doesn't really care. Like, Bethesda isn't going to get hurt from Game Pass, because Microsoft's going to continue to pay them as long as people keep playing the game. It's these other third parties that sign up. It's like, yeah, we'll put it on here. Those are the people that are going to get hurt by it.
Yeah, obviously Microsoft doesn't care what it pays itself, basically, or one of its subsidiaries, I guess.
Though,
but
if it doesn't do well enough, they might start bleeding out their subsidiaries, and not in a way where they kind of like let them survive, like, oh, we're just gonna let you be another company. They may go in the EA route, where they just start closing down things that aren't making them money.
Yeah, lovely. So the difference, though, that I can see is that Game Pass has day one games. Like, that's its big draw. I guess the third party doesn't have to agree to be on Game Pass, but it seems like a lot do. And with PS Plus, on the other hand, it's very rare. I won't say very, but it is rare for a day one game to show up on PS Plus. So, which I think is smart. It seems to me that seems like a more reasonable situation for developers, because like it's kind of like patents. Like, you know, you get all this money up front, and then after everyone's over it, it'll pop up again, and then they'll get a little bit more money from PS Plus. There's a couple of games like Stray, I know, although that might be a Sony game.
I don't know. I actually don't.
I remember Stray was available on day one on PS Plus. That's the only one I can think of. Almost all of them are like 3, 4, 5 or more years old.
Let's see. Developer Blue 12 Studio. Who owns Blue 12? They're small development team. So I don't think they're a subsidiary of everything. I guess they just decided to be available on day one. They signed some contract or something.
Yeah. It probably helped them. I mean, I think there's individual cases, because I don't know that people would have heard of it if it wasn't like, oh, I can download this free game, and then it was fantastic.
Yeah. But what I've heard too is that Game Pass, Microsoft is kind of strong-arming people into the whole like day one thing. Like you said, developer doesn't have to sign, but if you are a Goliath, which is as small as Xbox's sales are right now, they're still a console manufacturer. They are Microsoft is still a Goliath in the software and hardware industry. It's not that hard to be able to strong arm people into joining your service, especially if you make it seem like they're missing out if they don't. Right? You talk about all the other people working with them. It could be pretty easy to end up in a pitfall with a service like that.
And it can be hard to get noticed if you are kind of a smaller game developer.
Yeah.
You could put out a game and
nobody plays
your
it.
sales could be lower then they might be on Game Pass. It's hard to tell.
Fizchoso asked a couple questions regarding this too. Are game streaming services going to get big now that physical media is being phased out? Well, I actually don't know if physical media is actually getting phased out. I know there's definitely people trying to, but we're seeing a big backlash to that as well. What was the game? There was a game recently, I think maybe it was Starfield, right? Where they said there originally was going to be no physical release of it. And they recently turned around and said there will be a physical release of the game, right? People are starting to go crazy for physical media for a whole bunch of different reasons, including censorship being one of them.
And there was the recent Skullgirls debacle.
Yeah.
Where they took content out of the game, and I don't think that there was ever a physical release, or if there was, it was a long time ago.
If there was, it was only through something like limited run games or something like that.
Yeah. So that's, you've downloaded it on Steam, and Steam will automatically update it, and you'll lose a bunch of content that you
and you can't tell it not to update, but then you can't play with people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, having a physical version wouldn't fix that, I guess.
Yeah.
But at least you'd be guaranteed to have the version that you paid for.
Yeah, it's like you can only play offline locals. That's it, right? Like you have to have people come over to your place, or if you're at a local tournament, everybody has to be using. I've been in Discord with my hand up for a few minutes. Oh yeah, I saw it. But yeah, you'd have to actually be using an older version in a tournament. That's like the only way to not be using the most recent version and still play with people. Is you will lose access to online.
Yeah, now Netflix actually currently you can download their games. It's a subscription service,
but they're only doing mobile at the moment, and that's the reason why. They have talked about possibly getting into games you can stream. We haven't heard any news about that in over a year, so who knows if that's still in the pipeline or not. It was just kind of like wishy-washy.
Well, I will say, right now, it's not viable. It is terrible. I mean, Stadia just failed completely. I cannot get a single game. Well, I've only tried like 2 of them and I gave up. But I've tried 2 different games on PS5 with my gigabit Ethernet, my fucking ridiculously fast Ethernet here, or maybe it's half a gig. It's awful. The streaming is terrible. It's just like so much lag. I couldn't. Kingdom Hearts had to downgrade to just a blurry blob to even play it, and even then there was lag.
Which is funny. The only version of streaming games that I've seen that's even been remotely acceptable is by Microsoft, because you can stream some Xbox games on your phone. I had a friend who his entire channel is tech reviews and stuff. I went to college with him, and he actually gave it a pass, and he's really picky about his video gaming stuff. I don't remember what games he tried. They weren't heavy duty games. They didn't have a fuck ton of data that was going back and forth. Even I've heard Minecraft streams pretty fine too. And
on Wi-Fi, I mean?
I think he was on Wi-Fi and not his phone data, but there was no actual data on his phone. It was only being streamed through the cloud. And I don't know though how they work. Your local Xbox might still be playing the game for all I know. I haven't looked too much into it. I don't know if it's across the cloud from their servers or whatever. But if it's a game that's lightweight, I could see it working. All right, especially if it's going towards the phone, because you're much like the Switch. You're playing a compressed version of the game for the phone anyway. It's not like you're playing the PlayStation. But that's the big problem with the Switch, because you're not really playing a compressed version. When it came to Kingdom Hearts, you're playing the PlayStation 4 or 5 version, streaming over on a PlayStation in their servers over to you. And it's that's a lot of information for your Switch to just be a monitor and a remote controller, as opposed to if you're playing a phone version of, say, Minecraft. Well, that's a lot less information going across the stream as well. And I think Netflix could pull it off if that is what they're focusing on. right? Like if they gave you a controller that you could use at home, maybe it works with the Roku or something, and it's like, no, it's just because phone games are 1080p, right? Like if it's just projected onto your screen, that could work. It's a low data game. You're not streaming too much.
Yeah, I think part of the problem might be because like it's weird because Netflix obviously has paid for something to give them priority over everybody fucking thing on the internet, because sometimes like if I have like slow internet getting other places, I'll bring up Netflix and it's like boom, like, you know, beautiful perfect HD picture with no any problem on Netflix when like the whole rest of the internet is glitching out for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wow, how does Netflix do that? But obviously they pay a lot of money for that. But the problem is, I don't think things like the Switch, I don't think the Wi-Fi that's built into the Switch can handle like full HD streaming to it.
Because one, the Switch's Wi-Fi sucks. It has like a horrible Wi-Fi card. It's not even on par with most phones of the age of the Switch. I don't know where they went with it. It's like maybe they just used the 3DS Wi-Fi card for all I know. But it's awful. It's god awful. That's why most like fighting game players or like competitive Smash players specifically, they will use the USB LAN adapter from the Wii or third-party ones that have modeled off of it to play fighting games online. Yeah, so if I was hardwired in, it might work. It might work better. Probably would. I've just never tried that because I've tried I've even tried the other game that I tried on the PS5 was Frogger from PS3. And obviously the graphics aren't spectacular on that, but it was still laggy as hell. But again, over Wi-Fi, and for all I know, the PS5 Wi-Fi is probably not spectacular. So I don't know. I know the PS3 for its era had amazing Wi-Fi. Now PlayStation's network sucked, but the actual Wi-Fi connection was great.
Yeah, it's weird because I can watch Netflix on my PS5 again, and it's fine. But I go and I fucking stream Frogger, and it's horrible. Like, why is it so laggy? It's terrible.
That's because PlayStation Network sucks.
Yeah.
And they never fixed it. That's why I never paid for PS4 online when I was playing on the PS4. Right? Like, I put up with the bad PSN when it was free, because it was free. And then I'm like, okay, if we're paying for it now, are you going to make your servers better? That was apparently never on the table. They just wanted you to pay.
Yeah, what do you mean, make servers better? Just pay us.
Now, Nintendo, though, has improved their servers since they were free. Marginally, but they also don't charge you that much, so I'm like, we could take it or leave it. I just wish their netcode for their individual games were better, because I have no problem being connected to Nintendo servers at like any time. It's just they don't put good netcode in their games. Yeah.
I think we talked about that before. There was some article years ago that talked about why Nintendo's netcode sucks.
Part of it is because they have to reinvent the wheel every time they do anything.
Yeah, it's actually, believe it or not, like Japanese culture is the main reason. Because they don't want to bring in a Western developer who's already fixed this problem years ago, like a decade ago. They don't want to bring them in to show them how to do it.
Well, it's like they won't keep things either, right? So they paid Bandai Namco to make the netcode for Brawl. And I think they also use the same netcode for Mario Kart on the Wii too. I never had any problems playing those games online at a time where the internet wasn't even as good as it is now, right? Yeah. And then they're like, abandon it because like, oh, no, we're not working with Bandai Namco anymore. For Smash 4, we're going to come up with our own netcode that is far worse than what was on Brawl. I'm like, why, Nintendo? You already had it there. You could have just like made it work with the new system. Yeah. And that's not Western. Bandai Namco's in Japan.
Yeah. Well, that I can't explain.
Yeah. It's specifically Nintendo's culture. They always feel like they have to reinvent the wheel every time they do anything.
I guess so.
Yeah. But Game Pass was our original topic. Overall, how do you feel about it when it comes to like the longevity of games? Because we are looking, more and more people are wanting to hop on it. We do see more developers who aren't looking at the signs and aren't actually weighing whether it's good for them or not, because we're just seeing like people flippantly jump onto Game Pass. And we are seeing Microsoft pushing it harder, and we're slowly starting to see Sony trying to do some of the same things with PS Plus, right? I mean, looking at Stray, they are trying to get some day one stuff on there, just not theirs. They want other people's day one stuff on there because they still want to make their full like launch window money off of their stuff. How do you feel about it right now?
Wait, Microsoft doesn't put their own stuff on Game Pass?
No, they do. I said Sony doesn't on PS Plus. Right?
Sony.
They're trying to get day one stuff, but they want it to be other people. They still want like God of War and Spider-Man and stuff to make their full launch window.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that, but I don't know that like Sony is like, I don't know. I
Well, it
assume
doesn't sound like they're strong arming
pushing
people though, so it's not the
Right,
equivalent to Microsoft.
because they don't have
Yeah.
hardly anything
Yeah,
that's brand new. But frankly, I think that's good. I don't think they
I
should.
do too. Yeah,
And I don't think Microsoft should either. I mean, that was Mark Kern's point, was that they're losing way too much money. It's basically, it's not quite the same, but it's almost forcing a sort of free to play model on these AAA or on these otherwise, what do they call them?
premium.
Not deluxe, premium. Yeah, premium games. So his point was that it's going to lead to a lot more in-game microtransactions.
Yes, I could see that too. Battle passes were all the rage, though.
Battle Pass.
We are actually seeing the inventor of the Battle Pass stepping away from it, and that was Dota 2. Was the first game to include a Battle Pass back in the day. And they realized that all of their development started just going strictly to the Battle Pass, that like less than a fifth of players were actually using. It was like 18% of players were using the Battle Pass. And it's like, we're putting all of our development towards this thing that less than a fifth of our players use, when we should be focusing it on stuff that everyone uses. So they're actually rewinding and stepping away from it.
Yeah. Have you seen the Diablo 4 Battle Pass?
Oh yeah, it's fucking garbage.
Yeah, well, they're saying there's all this stuff that they recognize as a problem. I don't know if it's just bugs or balancing issues, all kinds of different problems. And they're saying, well, we're not going to fix it until season 2.
Yeah.
So all these people who paid for a Battle Pass for season 1 have to play this broken game.
Yeah, I completely forgot that Diablo 2 had seasons at first, because I never participated in them, because you could just play like there's the normal and then there's the ladder mode, and I never played on the ladder, so I forgot that Diablo 2 had seasons. My experience with Diablo 2 was roughly the same with Diablo 1, since I never participated in the ladder. It's like,
yeah, me too.
It had seasons, and then I went back. It's like, yeah, it did. It had a ladder that reset every quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
that
I guess
didn't come in until
resetting
October
everything.
anyway, right? Of 2003. So if you got like really early on, you didn't even notice there was a season, right? That was patch 1.1 is what added the seasons to Diablo 2.
Yeah. I'm so casual, it's ridiculous. I played through the story mode and that was it. That was like, oh, that's the end of the game. What more is there to do?
Yeah.
You know? Little did I know. But yeah. I'm old school that way, I guess.
Yeah. So I think I would hate to see more games that are just season pass. And I don't mind games with season passes or battle passes or anything. Like I said, I've been playing the MiHoYo games. They're built around free to play from the start, so they're kind of balanced with it. They're fun to play. I'll get the battle pass as a way of supporting the game. It gives me a few little bonuses that really help my character, all my teams out. But it's like, I don't want that from every game. I love that classic premium experience that we've had forever, ever since games hit console and were no longer the microtransaction of getting to continue playing an arcade game, right? Because that's technically the default. If we go far enough back, was microtransactions, right? You have to keep putting money in to continue playing the game. Can you say definitely whether or not I'm coming on? I don't think we're having people on today.
Sorry, I didn't know that. Yeah. I thought we were just going to finish this up, but anyway.
But I think what they should do for premium games, if you are going to be a free-to-play-ish game, or freemium is what we call it, where it's like it's cheaper, but to get everything, you basically have to participate in the battle pass or get purchases. I think one of them, I think was it Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2 maybe was one of them. Overwatch could count as that too, where you only had to pay like $20 to get into the original Overwatch, where it was like premium light and you were going to be spending more money playing the game. If you have something like that, where like your entry level cost is cheaper anyway, I think that's fine to put onto a Game Pass. Perfectly fine. Get your money through a battle pass or whatever you're doing. But if you're trying to make a classic premium experience, which I think most companies should be, company out there, you don't even know how to properly make a free-to-play game that uses a battle pass. You don't. That's why most of your games suck. Right? Do some research, actually make a good consumer experience first, and then we can consider whether you can be supported by a battle pass or something. But if you do work like that, Game Pass is fine. Other than that, wait either a month. So if you're not a super popular franchise, that's going to be your launch window. Or wait a quarter, which is like the launch window for known franchises. And then after that point, you can try to recoup with a deal for Battle Pass. But I think it's a bad idea before that.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, if you have a choice, don't go on Game Pass.
Yeah, I would say that too.
At least not at the beginning. I mean, wait until at least past your launch window, a lot of the first few months, and see how it goes. And
that's why I think it's good for like Battle Pass games or anything. If what Game Pass does for your game that's otherwise free is it gives you either the Battle Pass or something akin to it that's Game Pass only, right? Like if you don't have to buy the basic monthly Battle Pass, then you Game Pass would be like a good alternative for that. Or if you have like a separate mail delivery system where people on Game Pass get these bonuses every single month, maybe trickled out day by day, that's a fine system.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is Ghostwire Tokyo a good or bad game? Is that what you were going to jump on just to ask? He sent me this in a DM, and I never responded. Which I am sorry I didn't respond. It was more busy. It was not like I was trying to ignore you. But I don't know. Never heard of the game. He keeps asking about, is this game good or bad or whatever? And he's like, you've never heard of the game? It's like, Fizz, I want you to understand this.
Read the reviews.
You could go online. You can Google it. I'm sure there's some niche person that has reviewed this game. But since video games have been invented,
on YouTube.
Since video games have been invented, there have been 5 million video games that have been made. I can't hear all of them. I've played over 1,000 games in my life. That's not even a drop in the bucket for the number of video games that are out there.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know all these obscure games. I mean, I honestly, as much as I kind of shit talked to Skullgirls on Twitter, I'd never heard of it before last month.
I've played it. I've actually played Skullgirls. I think it's actually a great fighting game. I've been very, very nitpicky about the fighting games that I've been getting into over like the last decade or so, because I like Street Fighter 4. That was I did not like Street Fighter 5. I probably won't like Street Fighter 6. I don't know. I'm going to wait a while on that. But I haven't liked any Mortal Kombat that's come out in like the last decade. I haven't liked even half of the anime fighters that I normally like. I fucking hate BlazBlue Cross Tag, and I love the BlazBlue franchise. And it's just like, there's been very few good ones. I've enjoyed Skullgirls all the way through. But I'm not going to support it anymore after the shit that just happened. Especially because, like, the original team's not on anymore. That's the reason they got away with this shit. The original team is gone, off the game. Lab Zero is not a thing. They rebranded, I think, into, like, a new company or whatever, and all the guys left. So that's why they could go in, and it almost feels like the art book part 2 was out of spite. If you're like looking at all the information, the whole Skullgirls thing, like they specifically did it because the people aren't around anymore. And they don't have to worry about like royalties or whatever. If we make changes, we don't have to worry about it. If we take it away from people, we don't have to worry about it. Seems like it was very spite driven. And like all these minor PC changes are because the original creators aren't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops. I misspelled that, but I did a YouTube search and I just typed in Ghostwire Tokyo, and 2 reviews and 3 walkthroughs and gameplay videos all came up. So go nuts.
But oh god, which I'm glad you brought it up before, because when I mentioned censorship in games for physical media, because I was really pissed at. They're minor changes too. They are minor changes aside from like the whole art book thing and things and color palettes literally being taken away that people paid for. But like the aesthetic changes are minor. But that's not the point. One, you don't take things away from people after they bought it. That is absolutely no go. And 2, you shouldn't change art. Enjoyed Schoolgirls? No, Skullgirls.
Skullgirl.
And are any of the Skullgirls? I think one of them might be a schoolgirl. My favorite Street Fighter character is a schoolgirl, which is Sakura, the apprentice of Ryu. Though she's not one anymore. That's the thing, like, Street Fighter is one of those few franchises where time actually progresses at a pretty standard rate. You're not stuck in, like, comic book world, where it's, like, only a decade's passed, even though it's been, like, 100 years already. Sakura has grown up. She's like a fight commentator and stuff now. She's got other jobs. She's graduating from high school. That's already passed. But when you first meet her, she's in high school.
Yeah. The fighting game Skullgirls, yes. That's
which I very much enjoyed
what we were talking about.
But if you want a game that one of the cool things about Skullgirls was that it's a before they brought in Big Band and Beowulf, every character in the game was a girl, right? Skullgirls. But they added 2 guys. Which kind of, to me, I didn't like that. They're cool characters. It's fun to play like Beowulf. I don't know if it's fun. Oh, yeah, she might have become a mangaka as well. But she's done fight commentary. But yeah, what was I getting at? It's fun to play those characters. I'm not a Big Band guy, but you can troll with him if you really want to. They broke the original theme, if you ask me. One game that didn't, that was like last year, they came out with a remastered edition that added more content to it, was Arcana Hearts 3 specifically. And I love Arcana Hearts. It's by the same people that make games like Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue, all that jazz. And it is literally every character in the game is female, right? And of all like range of ages, some of them actually are schoolgirls, but it's like this really cute game that you're like, oh, this is going to be fine. And then you've got almost battle royale style, all these little like girls trying to kill each other. It's a very funny game, and the cool part mechanically, which is the best part of the game, is it's got very tight horizontal boundaries, like your x-axis, but the y-axis actually goes pretty high, so you can bounce them off the wall, you can juggle them up, and you can actually keep somebody in the air for a while. It's a really intense game that looks way cuter than what actually goes on in the game. And people who like fighting games, drop Skullgirls, play Arcana Hearts, right? And embrace tradition.
Yeah. Sounds good. Did we talk about what actually happened with that studio, by the way?
I don't think we did. I think this is actually the first time that we talked about it on air.
The subject at all?
Yeah, we didn't talk about it last time. Even though I think the the drama had already happened before last show. I just don't think we talked it. I might have had it brought up in a tab, but we never got to it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So there was a bit of a coup at the game studio.
Yeah.
That made Skullgirls. I don't know at what point. At some point, like all the original developers were fired. I wasn't prepared to talk about this today, but
Yeah, that's what I
essentially,
was talking about. They're all gone. They're not in the studio anymore.
right. But also, the CEO a few years ago was accused of all kinds of Me Too bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know the details. I mean, I'm sure it's up online somewhere, but it looked to me like nothing illegal. It was just like being creepy to women or something like that, or maybe asking someone out on a date. I don't think it was anything. It wasn't like assault or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it was just Me Too bullshit. So eventually, basically, they forced him out.
I actually remember that. Because I believe it was, what's her name? Bunny Ayumi was like involved in it. Remember all the tweets and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
I think we even talked about and covered that at the time that it was happening.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, what ended up happening was, I guess maybe he was the owner too, like a sole owner.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up essentially selling the whole company to the employees. So it basically became a communist company, an employee-owned company.
Like a co-op.
And yeah, which I'd never heard of a game studio doing that. I'm sure it's happened before, but
if you're a small team, a lot of them basically start off as effectively co-ops because like basically everyone in the team is sacrificing their own pay, right, to work on a labor of love, and then they just split the money. And if you're splitting it all evenly amongst the team, you're effectively a co-op right there, whether you intended to be one or not. Yeah. But that's the best way to do it, is to not intentionally be a co-op and just to actually make something good.
Yeah, especially if you're you're putting in all the blood, sweat, and tears. But this was basically selling it to a bunch of people who hadn't made the the big standout game that the studio was making money off of, for 10 years, who basically came in and, brought in all their woke ideas and said, we're taking out all the problematic stuff.
That and like
we don't,
every small company that starts out as effectively a co-op never stays that way. It's like the 3 to 5 people who made the original game that got big will hire other people afterwards, and they'll just stay like the joint owners of it.
Yeah. Or there'll be some sort of fallout, and like
2 or 3 of them will stay maybe, or
and buy out the others or something like that. Kind of like the whole story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where that created by 2 guys, and then they had a falling out, and one of them bought the other out, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Or Riot actually started that way, where like the few people who started League of Legends all kind of worked together, and Tryndamere, the main guy who became the CEO, but they all still kind of worked together, and they had like joint ownership for a bit, but some people just fell out, and it just became a full-on company.
Yeah, Sketchbook, we're still talking about Skullgirls.
Yeah.
That's the company. I can't remember offhand what the name of the company is now.
It was Lab Zero, I believe, was the original.
Yeah, it's different. Something else now. But,
they had made another game that was really good too, which I feel bad. It was called Indivisible, which was a RPG, and it was a side-scroller RPG. You could tell it was the same people because the art style was like exactly the same as Skullgirls, and it was pretty fun. A little bare bones as far as RPG go, but they had really fun characters, good story, and because it was still mostly an indie game. Because at the time that they made that, Skullgirls was an indie game. The studio, you might call it a 1A studio now, like a single A. But Indivisible was, I think it was on Indiegogo. Like they actually had to get that game backed. and they had a bunch of other indie characters show up.
So was Skullgirls.
Yeah, they both had to be back. They were like, even though their first game was a success, it wasn't so successful that they could just make the next game they wanted to make. They also had to have that one crowdfunded. But since it was in that situation, they got a lot of other indie game characters in there too, as like crossovers for the RPG. I think even Shovel Knight showed up in it. Shovel Knight was in like every game at that time. Like if you were an indie game, you wanted a crossover. What was it? Yacht Club, I think, is the people who made Shovel Knight. They were just like, boom, put them in there. We'll love your crossover. Yacht Club's great. They haven't gone downhill.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, no, they're the ones that made Shovel Knight.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Why is it? It's so confusing. Lab Zero still has a website.
Yeah.
But they haven't updated it in 3 years, so I guess that's
Well, so I think after the coup, right, a lot of them got back together and they basically formed a new indie studio with a similar name, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen if they've gotten a project out, but I heard they're working on something. I'm not too up on it. I'll hear something about it eventually.
Okay. Now defunct Lab Zero Games. What is the name of it now?
I have no clue.
It's probably on Steam.
Yeah, it's probably whatever Skullgirls is under, because Steam would have updated the publisher name.
Yeah, I guess we did talk about it when this happened, because this only happened like a couple years ago.
Oh, the Me Too thing? We definitely talked about that. I remember to me. Yeah.
What a cluster. Well, let's see. Autumn Games? No, that's the publisher. Hidden Variable Studios is listed as the developer, but I don't think that's it either.
I don't know. It is very confusing. There's only indie studios should try to. I'm not saying you can't rise to at least being a single A. That money is good. But you should try to stay as independent as possible for as long as you can, right? Stay a small company, limited liability. Keep your employee count as small as necessary. If you need a new person, especially if I don't know, maybe you want to work in some new physics engine that you're not used to, you could hire a specialist for that. I don't care, but try to keep your employee count as small as possible. Try to stay as true to what you were as long as you can, and then just work with some type of publisher who will help you get your games out. I think that's fine. Nicalis is whatever. Everyone went to Nicalis for the ports and physical copies of their games and stuff like that as a publisher. And as far as I've heard, I don't think Nicalis has ever fucked over another company.
And there's all these new options. There's Mad Mushroom now is a publisher. That's Asmongold's or
the OTK.
You see OTK's OTK's publisher. And there's the other one by Donkey. He has a publishing studio.
That's Big Mode.
Right. Yeah. If you can get in front of streamers, especially if your game is fun to watch on live streams, it can really explode.
Yeah, and I don't. The thing is, these people, because they still mostly operate independently. Sure, Asmongold is part of OTK. And all the people in it are all big. He's the biggest, but they're all big. Emeru and Tectone and stuff. They're all big. But they mostly still operate as independent content creators, right? So they value independence. It's not like they're gonna fuck you over. They want games that will make them money, so they want to make you money too. You know?
And a lot of them are also offering, some funding too. If you've got the start of a game and it looks fun and you think you really got something, you can go and see if they'll fund you to finish it.
Yeah.
I bet they'd be willing to even promote if you wanted to do some crowdfunding. I mean, maybe. I would imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I have no clue. I know that because I started looking into more of the other OTK stuff for a while. That the actual OTK proper content, the stuff that's not just the independent people who run it, is actually pretty good. They have a podcast. I think it's called like the Bacon and Eggs podcast. That's pretty funny. Some of the stuff in it is clearly staged, but they play games and stuff on it and stuff where they. I think Tectone had a game where he was trying to get them to guess what anime it was based on like 6 emojis, and I don't think Asmon got a single one, and Emmy just like knocked them all out of the park. He's like, how did you guess that? It's like, oh, that's clearly Full Metal Alchemist.
Wow. But yeah, I just can't recommend Game Pass for developers.
I can't either.
I know so many. Got gamers like Xbox fanboys love it. I think it's fantastic. But
oh, and I was pimping the shit out of it when I first heard it, but I didn't know. At first, we didn't know it was going to have new games on it, right? We didn't hear that until like maybe the second or third quarter that they had announced Game Pass. So I'm like, okay, old games on there, especially if you're going to get like the whole Xbox library. If this is like Xbox's Netflix, that would be great. But I mean, we can actually look at things like Netflix and, well, Netflix not so much, because their entire model for making movies is built around the fact that they're a streaming service, so their budget and everything is accountable to it too. But we can look at like HBO, right? Home box office. We can look at like Paramount Plus, all those different things. And we see that they're losing money on the new movies they put on there, and why some things like HBO had to have like these, you have to rent it if it's new, right? Like you have to pay like that $35 to get it that weekend, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever it is, because they lose money if they put it up available for just streaming when it's already out in theaters. You need to make your box office money.
Mm-hmm.
And the same would apply to games.
It's not streaming. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not enough. Shoot, I lost my train of thought on that.
It's also why I think Netflix, if they were producing, like actually developing games, like they have a studio developing, they would probably not get hurt. Much like with their movies, they would plan their budget around the fact that this is going to be streamed and part of their, especially, man, they just got like 5 million new subscribers because that's the last thing they did to hit password sharing. Actually seemed to have been more effective than anything they've done before that. I think it's also they gave you like a deal. So it's like they were thinking like, how can we actually get more people to sign up for it? And they worked. Yeah. They got 5 million more subscribers. So good on you, Netflix. But because of that, like they would be like, okay, we could probably. They like things like Ollie World, the stuff like the phone games. They like Pixel stuff. They would probably make a very low budget game that's fun to play, that you could probably even play with a remote control. Kind of like those old games that might show up in DVDs. Like if you go and play games on a DVD bonus section. And they would probably be fine. They'd probably actually profit off of it because they would keep the budget low enough. They wouldn't be blowing things like these AAA studios do. They're probably the only company, because they think streaming first, that I could bet would profit off of making a streaming-based game service.
Yeah. You know, I don't understand why Nintendo isn't as big of a part of this conversation.
I don't either.
As I would have expected. Because, like, okay, so say say you come out with some brand new game that, you know, I don't know, somehow you spend millions on.
Hi, Tim, and hi, Good Night Spoon. Okay.
Oh, hey. Like, okay, do Game Pass or go on
and
Game
hi,
Pass.
Majin. I didn't notice that Majin was there as well. Hello to all.
Hey there. Yeah, go on Game Pass, and they're, what is it, 30 million Xbox units?
Yeah, something like that. No, Xbox is strong. 30 million's like the PlayStation.
20?
Xbox is like half of that. I think it's like just under 20.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, just under 20. And then make sure that you do a Nintendo Switch version.
Yeah,
for their almost 130 million.
Well, they kind of are,
subscribers.
right? It's weird. They're in this weird middle ground, right? Because you do get a lot of stuff if you get Switch Online, right?
Yeah.
You get this huge back catalog of old games because they have these emulators that are functionally streamed, right? You're functionally streaming these games. They're just so small that you don't even notice. There's some local data, right? You do have to patch it. There are things added.
You sure? I think it downloads the whole game.
I don't think
I'm almost certain.
maybe for the older ones, but I don't think the N64 one is big enough data wise for all the games that's on it, because all the games should equal up to about 200 megabytes at this point, which is not huge, but I don't think the thing was 200 megabytes. It might
But
be.
you have to update. You have to download, update the application before you can play any of the new games.
Yeah. That's why like the older
Every
ones, well, because they're updating the library too, right? Like the way it
Yeah, I
works,
guess.
right? The older ones have no problem believing that you're just straight up playing,
Yeah.
right?
It's got the whole game on there.
Yeah, they're all like most of those are like kilobytes, right?
tiny.
Added together, you're not even going to notice. When we get to the 64, we're getting to games our entire megabytes, right? And they might be. The whole thing might be on there. I'm just doing rough math. It should be upwards of 200 megabytes by this point, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even remember how
Nintendo
big it is.
64.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo 64 games had a maximum of 64 megabytes.
Yeah. We're already in the megabytes by the time we're on the 64. You
But
could
my
fit the whole
Switch
thing on there. Let me look
It's
how
because of
big
capacity
the,
of. Yeah, like Switch
Well,
has a
it's not-
capacity of 1,000 gigabytes.
I'm not talking about what the capacity is. I'm talking about how big is the actual thing. That's what
Actually,
I'm gonna go into the library and see how big it is.
Oh.
Because we could have the
but
whole
anyway.
thing on there. Yeah.
Let me just say hi to John Dillard, who's in the chat.
Oh, hey.
Thanks for
Dillard.
stopping by. He says because Sega does what Nintendo
Data management.
like stop making consoles altogether.
Yeah.
Magian says Nintendo maybe just wants to be the niche, but they're
Okay.
not.
No, you could.
They're the,
I thought it was a lot
dominant.
smaller. It's 964 megabytes now. Okay, so the whole thing is on there.
yeah. That's what I
It was a
thought.
lot smaller when it started. I think they might have been streaming the games at first because people were talking about like all these lag and latency problems that was with it. I think that was probably how they solved it, is by just putting the whole ROM actually on your system.
There you go. Just take it. 64 megs maximum. That's tiny.
Yeah.
Still. You know. But yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't know if they want what they want, but they're not the niche. They're the dominant console of this generation. I don't care what people say. People are like, they're underpowered and blah blah blah. I'm like, 125 million. That's like, okay, mic drop. Sorry, you can complain about them all you like, but their install base is insane.
They're already passing up their former previous largest thing, which was the DS, and they're probably going to pass up the PlayStation 2. So
yeah, like I get that, like brand new games. I mean, Final Fantasy 16 is not going to come out with a Switch version. I don't know why. They should, but they won't. But that's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't know if it's they feel like the game's going to be compromised in some way if they release a lower quality version. I don't know, but man, I'll tell you, if I would, that might actually be the one thing that Mark Kern didn't even think about when it came to his, complaints about Game Pass, is that, okay, but like the studios that are going to be the most hurt, the indies that are going to get the least amount from Game Pass, are probably more likely to also release on Switch. And so they're probably going to be fine.
yeah,
Won't get
Probably.
much from Microsoft, but how much
Well, if I was
sales
in-
were they going to get from Microsoft anyway?
that's the thing. If I was an indie studio, I'd probably ignore both PlayStation and Microsoft. Like, if I could get the game on there, sure, that'd be a bonus. But my priority would be just trying to get it on the Switch, because that's the thing that most people have. It's like the Switch and the PC release, because everybody plays PC games for the most part. They're growing in number. I mean, the Switch alone is still bigger than the PC market, but it's also the bulk of the thing that makes consoles bigger than the PC market. The PC market, right, is bigger than Xbox and PlayStation combined.
Yeah. Sketchbook says Nintendo's like wrestling of if we're making money, why would we change it? Exactly.
Yeah.
But Diablo 4 has a Switch version, doesn't it?
I don't know. I actually don't.
I think that came out.
But so like what they're doing with online is you've got your retro games, which I think are great. You need your whole retro game catalog. They have already announced that the next console they use will be using the same service as the Switch. They're not making another eShop service yet again that you have to log into. It will have all of the same service credentials, which also means it should have everything you purchased as well. Backwards compatible. Just from that announcement alone, that was the big thing that was going to worry us about Nintendo's next system. Or did we waste all of our money a game just to onto another system and lose it?
Where did you see? You said they haven't. Who's confirmed this?
Well, so they haven't confirmed whether everything is going to be backwards compatible or not, but it probably will be. It was an article. We were going to cover it last week on this day, but you weren't here, and we ended up talking about like wild animal attacks and stuff instead. But there was an article where Nintendo did confirm that they were going to be using the same live service, the same Nintendo Online, instead of like reinventing another online service yet again, like they've done for the last 3 things in a row.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, I was wrong. Diablo 4 has no plans on coming to the Switch.
That doesn't surprise me. Bring back Miiverse. I agree. We were actually talking about this last night after on like Rick's channel. I don't think we were on the show. I think we were just in the backstage. But after the show, we were talking about stuff like that. I liked Miiverse. The only problem was there were some creepy people on there that made them want to take it down for everybody. And, you know.
Yeah. Now all the creepy people are in Splatoon writing creepy messages.
Well, I mean, they were back then, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or Swapnote. Oh, God. Swapnote was so good for, like, the 3 months it lasted. And they're like, no, we have to take away the online and your ability to use pictures because clearly people were going to send dick pics. They were always going to send dick pics to Nintendo. How did you not know that was going to happen?
Man, some of the Swapnote like animations and stuff were amazing. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how people did that. It's amazing.
But the only thing they're doing outside of retro right now are DLC. But at least you can get some DLC, but it's only first party stuff and bonuses, right? So they're kind of like Game Pass in that way because Game Pass will get you bonuses for things. That was the thing I really liked about Game Pass. It'd be like, hey, if you get Game Pass, you can get this free skin in League of Legends or this thing over here in Minecraft or whatever, right? Like that was the cool part about Game Pass that incentivized like $1 a month or $5 a month, whatever it is. Sure, I'll pay for that. But that's what Nintendo
like
does.
all the extra, basically all the DLC for Mario Kart 8.
Yeah,
I think is included.
You also get the DLC for Animal Crossing in there as well. I think you get. They're going to put some of the Splatoon stuff in there because I think you got the DLC for Splatoon 2 with the thing. So we don't know how they're going to handle it with 3 yet, but there's some speculation that maybe not the season pass, but some of the side stuff might be covered by Switch Online. It's all up in the air. There's been no confirmation either way, just rumors. But that's how they've been handling it. But it's all first party. Nintendo has not been making deals with other studios. And that might actually be for the best, because if you're only working first party, you don't have to worry about whether you're getting the fair deal or if they're getting the fair deal. You don't worry about what you pay yourself for the most part.
Yeah, plus, like, you don't have to worry about, like, down the road, if it's basically exactly the same service down the road, it's like deals like that usually expire. And so all of a sudden you can't give that DLC, include that DLC anymore.
Yeah. It does have apparently the same problem as the other stuff, where if you did get your DLC through it and you're not paying for Switch Online, the license for that DLC does expire, so you can't use it. Yeah. It'd be like the equivalent to your friend had the DLC and your Switch was their main Switch, so you were able to use it on your user, but then they get their own Switch, make that their main Switch, and you can no longer play any of their DLC anymore.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. And so, for the most part, I think you're still probably better off just buying it. I think in general, you're better off just buying the stuff. But it could be a nice way to test it. Like, hey, I would like to try it. The only problem is you have to wait till your pass runs off anyway to buy it. They won't let you purchase it while you have the online because it'll register that you have the DLC already.
Right. Yeah, that is one kind of nice thing about PS Plus. I mean, I guess it's nice. I've never used it, but you can, the stuff that you get on PS Plus for free, you can choose to just buy it too.
Yeah.
And you get to keep it forever.
At least that's how it was before. I don't know if Nintendo's fixed that or not. That you can buy it during it. I don't know if that was intended. Maybe it's just a glitch with the way the eShop works. I haven't checked in a while. But when it came to the Animal Crossing one, I was going to go and buy it myself, and it registered that I already had it on my system.
Weird.
Yeah. It is different than if your buddy had it, right? Because if your buddy had it on your system, it would know that it's not on your account. But because your account is hooked up to the Switch Online that has it, to the system, it looks like you own it during the time that you have Switch Online. And that's way, the main reason for that, I would assume, is so if somebody goes and tries to purchase it while they should have it for free, they're not going to have you double dip per se. It's just going to download the DLC for you.
I wonder if you uninstalled the DLC.
Maybe.
Then it would keep
No, because it did it before I had it installed. It just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to be spending money on it while I had the Switch Online membership. Yeah.
But I want to give you money.
I do. I want it permanently,
so that I keep
especially because
it forever.
I'm not always online.
Yeah.
I go on road trips and stuff, damn it. Sometimes, or even, I just like playing games
But
offline.
It doesn't have to check every time, though, right? I mean, isn't it just like the PlayStation?
No,
where
it
it's
doesn't.
Like, it ups the license for a few days or whatever.
Yeah, it will scan to see if you have the license, but it's like scanning your memory.
Yeah.
Your actual storage. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting side note. When I had my Switch stolen, along with every other possession I owned, I got a new Switch, and I put my same account on there, and I was able to download all of my downloadable software. It had this weird quirk at first where it would like have to log into the eShop every game that I opened.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized it was because it was registered as a secondary.
Yes, it wasn't
device.
your main. So you would have had to gone to like My Nintendo into your Nintendo Online account, and like once every 90 days or something, you can actually be like, I want to change what my main account is, even if you don't have access to the original device.
Yeah, so I did that, and that was months afterwards. After I was like so sick of this, like, what? I don't remember it ever doing this. I don't know why it's doing it. Finally looked it up, and I was like, oh. So I basically deactivated my old one. So I hope whoever stole it was unpleasantly surprised when they found out they couldn't play any of my games anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you ever have your Switch stolen and get a new one, make sure you set that as your primary.
Yeah, I've actually changed my primary Switch several times. And that's mostly because I think it wasn't until 2020. So for like the first 3 years, I didn't even own my own Switch, right? And it's like I didn't feel the need to. I was always living somewhere where somebody owned a Switch that was like in the living room area. So I was like on my mom's Switch for a while. And then because of drug habits, she ended up pawning her original Switch off, which I hated because I had a lot of save files on there. I wish you had told me that. I would have moved everything to an SD card ahead of time. Then it was on my brother's for a while. Then she got a new Switch. He bought her Switch and be like, okay, but I'm only buying this for you if you promise you can't sell it for drug money. We still have that Switch. She kept that one the whole time. But then I moved in with Buck, and he already had a Switch in his living room. So like, well, there's really no point in me buying a Switch if I could just play the one in the living room. So then that was my main Switch. And then a Switch was gifted for me. It was like, well, I don't need my own Switch, but I'm not going to complain either. So I've had my own Switch for a while now. I probably eventually, I think, would have just bought my own anyway. Because one, I don't like having to go to the living room to play the Switch. That was slowly getting on my nerves. And two, I wanted to stream stuff. So it's like if it's a family Switch, right? You're like, oh, I can't just take the Switch into my recording area from the living room, you know, even if I'm the one playing it, it has to stay there. I could buy another dock, but no. So I just having my own Switch was better anyway. Now there's like 4 here or something like that.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
You could play. Oh, by the way, Pikmin 4, which Pikmin 3 for Switch added this too, has 2-player co-op now.
Oh, nice. Well, that's another thing I like about Nintendo. And I think all this stuff is all these other companies are doing wrong. They don't focus on couch co-op, and Nintendo still does. And they finally got over the other side, where Nintendo was like the far side of the horseshoe, or the whatever you want to call it, where they wouldn't do online for like anything, right, outside of like PvP. So you could not, even in some cases PvP, you couldn't play Mario Party online for the longest time. It was couch only. You can't play like New Super Mario Brothers with people online. It's couch only, and it's like,
yeah.
If you go over to the other people, there's no local. If you go to Nintendo, there's no online. And now Nintendo's kind of been a little better. It's like, no, we'll give you local and online options for at least most things now.
I wonder if that Super Mario Brothers Wonder game is going to have online.
I have been wondering that. Yeah, I don't know. I hope. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Really cool. It'd have to be good netcode, though.
Yeah. It's like even games that and companies have otherwise pissed me off, like ones that I used to like that aren't as good as they used to be. They still end up doing things that, like, I wish the rest of the industry was doing this. Like I used to be, I wouldn't say a fan of Gearbox, but I used to be a fan of their Borderlands series, right? All the way up until 3 and on. They can go fuck themselves. Right, Tiny Tina. As much as people were raving about it, I finally went in and I watched them. Like this has pretty much all the problems I had with 3. I don't know why people are raving about it. It's kind of just because Tiny Tina is a fun character. I still liked Tiny Tina in 3, but what they did have in 3 that I never see anywhere anymore is they still had the ability to play LAN. You could still bring multiple computers together and you could hook them up via LAN and play with people all on your own screen. You don't just have to do couch co-op, split screen, whatever. You could play with other people all on your own computer without having to use the internet. And like, why does nobody do that anymore?
Yeah, peer-to-peer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why not? I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes, like, I wonder if they're like trying to stop cheating, but it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Nobody outside of that group cares. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how me and my brother played through all of Borderlands 2 together. It was on one account. He logged into my Steam account, downloaded the game, went offline, and then I logged in and already had the game. And then we just local area network connected together and played it offline. No problem. Yeah.
Is it a piracy prevention thing?
I have no clue why. I think it's because they just don't value it anymore. Like they don't think anybody's going to want to play LAN. It's like one pet peeve of mine is when PC versions of the game disable split screen as even an option, right? And like, well, who on PC is going to want to play split screen? It's like I could plug my PC into a TV monitor, like a huge one if I wanted to, and I could plug in all these USB controllers and I could play with my friends. One of my favorite racing games was Sonic All-Stars Racing Transform, and that actually Sega left the split screen on for the PC. I could just play it with anybody if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know why disable it. Borderlands disabled it. Like, I could praise them about one thing and then immediately criticize them. It's like, you could play split screen Borderlands on the PlayStation version. Why are you disabling me even having that option on PC? And it's a specific disable. It's not like the PC version doesn't have it in it for some reason, because people have modded it where it goes in and it flips like a line of code. Like, it's like one variable and then you can use split screen again.
Mm-hmm. By the way, speaking of old games, if I can find it, there was a very interesting tweet. Oh no, it's going to take me a while. You want to say hi to Rick?
Oh, hey, Rick. Though I did already say hi to Rick earlier because he was one of the earliest people in the show, but I'll say hi again.
Shoot, where was it? Who's that guy? Oh, here it is. Tweet from Masahiro Sakurai.
Hey!
Who has a YouTube channel, of course, about game development.
Yeah, Sakurai's great.
And this week, he's talking about none other than Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yeah, dude, I love Uprising.
Yeah, and he said in the tweet about with a link to his YouTube channel, or I guess he did a whole show about it. He says it was a jam-packed third-person shooter released early on in the 3DS's life cycle. In this video, I'll be introducing the concepts behind its creation. Personally speaking, I'm really glad we were able to make this game. And then in the video, he has like screenshots of him talking, and he's describing the game. And then at one point he says, "It's a shame that it's only lived on 3DS, as I'd love to play on a bigger screen with smoother graphics."
Yeah, this is not the first time he's brought that up. It's just that this video is dedicated to that game. It was, I think it was like a second or third video on that channel. He was talking about, I forgot what the subject was, but he was talking about something mechanically, and he brought up Kid Icarus as an example. He's like, he said basically the same thing. It's a shame that nobody's ported this game, but maybe we'll see that soon. But it wasn't like he was saying that as like a rumor or inside leak or anything. He was saying that contextually, if you understand the Japanese, in a hopeful way, that like maybe somebody in Nintendo who sees this video would like to do that. But I've yet to hear anybody say they actually want to. To me, I think hands down it's the best game on the 3DS. And many people just have not played it.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. But I never really, I don't know why, I never got into it that much.
It's also weird to call it a third-person shooter. I mean, that is accurate. It is a third-person shooter. It just feels weird to call it that because it's not quite what you expect from a third-person shooter, right? Like, it's kind of got like that Star Fox rail shooter part to it in the first half of a level, like when you're getting to the dungeon. But then when you get down to the level section, you are running around, you can still shoot, but it's kind of just like a third-person action game, I think is more appropriate, because there's a lot of melee combat you can
over the shoulder
as well. Yeah, over-the-shoulder action, I think, is probably the best way to say it. But maybe the term for third-person of both shooter and action in general is a lot looser in Japanese. Maybe they don't have any more specific language, so he would just naturally say third-person shooter. But I think anybody here would qualify as just like a third-person action game.
Yeah. Well, I put a link to his channel in the chat.
Yeah.
And, it's the latest video on there. I thought that was fascinating. I was like, I feel like I was just talking about Kid Icarus, but I always talk about Kid Icarus. So.
Oh yeah. It's a great game. People should play it. But I'm also like, I recommend people to play it, but I don't, because the only way you can play it right now is if you already own it on a 3DS. If you can find a physical copy of it on 3DS, or if you're willing to sail the high seas, but that also means you're playing a 3DS game on your PC like monitor, which is doable but awkward, right? I wish they would just find a way to not need the bottom screen and port it to Switch so everyone can play it. Especially because you've got 2 control sticks on Switch. So it'd be so easy to not need that bottom screen.
Yeah, but they came out long before the second control stick thing.
Yeah.
Came out before the new 3DS.
And I think you can use it on the new 3DS though, because that game was made with CirclePad Pro usability. Remember, there was an attachment that you could put on the 3DS that gave you another CirclePad. So it's like you had 2 joysticks, right? And it had that capability in it. It was one of the first games to use it. If it not the first, I don't remember if it was exactly the first or not. And one of the control options in there, if you went buttons only, was that it would enable the CirclePad Pro. And so I think that works that way on the new 3DS as well.
So if you're playing on Citra, that should work.
Yeah.
You just map your...
Oh, yeah. But you could play that
control.
whole game buttons only anyway. I always use the buttons only control on there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think I have it on Citra, actually.
It'd be pretty easy to port to the Switch. It's like, not to mention you have 2 screens on the Switch, but you don't. Actually, you only have 1. Because if it's docked or it's not. You have a touch screen on the Switch if it's undocked, but...
Yeah. I was wondering if you meant on the 3DS or not.
Yeah. Or maybe
Switch
you
only
forgot
has
to put, you don't have 2 screens. Maybe you missed a word, but
maybe.
I don't know. Wii U, you had 2 screens on. And we were confused why that game wasn't put on the Wii U in the first place. Even at the time it came out, like, they could have literally just ported it to the Wii U.
There are a lot of DS games that came out on the Wii U eShop. They're playable
Which
with 2 screens.
I found really weird because they still put like both screens on the same screen and you just touch the bottom. Like why?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like why not just put the top screen on your TV screen and the bottom screen on the game pad?
That would have made more sense.
I don't know. Nintendo, they know what they're doing to a large degree, but then there's just like random spots where they're clearly winging it. Like they just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. At least it was a touch screen.
Yeah. But I don't know. They do that game of all games needs to be ported to the Switch. I don't care about literally any other game that was on the 3DS. So they actually are porting a game of the 3DS. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is coming to the Switch. So maybe there's hope for Kid Icarus if Dark Moon is coming to it. That's another game that I wasn't particularly a fan of compared to the other Luigi Mansions. I think it's the weakest of the 3, but it was a 3DS only game that is now going to be on Switch. So let's cross our fingers, hold our breath, and have some hope there. Especially if Sakurai keeps mentioning this and how he would love it to be on the bigger screen. Maybe he'll influence somebody to do it.
I wonder if they would have to have, I wonder if they have the original assets, because I mean, otherwise they'd have to redo a bunch of stuff to get it in HD or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Because I feel like if they do have at least the models or whatever, all they have to do is add a new texture mapping to everything to make it HD. Maybe new lighting sources, so shadows are cast differently. But minimum. It's like what they did when they took Ocarina of Time. They made some new models for the characters so they look closer to the artwork. But a lot of the assets of the land, like the background and all that for Ocarina of Time 3D, a lot of that was just texture mapping. Like they didn't have to remake all of that from scratch.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I don't know. But you know what? That's the last thing we're going to talk about. That was actually a more engaging conversation. We literally only had to talk about basically the one thing with a little bit of preamble.
Technically, one topic for the whole
show. Even though I had like a whole row of tabs set for us to talk about. But I really wasn't interested in most of what we could have talked about today, other than for some reason Rare doesn't believe that people want another Banjo-Kazooie game, which I think is weird. What are the other ones? I could just go through them real quick before we go off.
Oh, Apple versus Epic.
Yeah, Apple versus Epic might be hitting the Supreme Court. Pokemon set up forums. I'm a forum boy, so I'm gonna go check it out. Probably go pester some 10-year-olds.
Oh, also, Nintendo is doing speaking of Pokemon, is doing a podcast now on YouTube where they are going to have 1,000 episodes, each episode doing a deep dive on a different Pokemon.
Oh, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Over the next many years, I assume.
I'm guessing.
So, yeah.
Other things. The team that did the Five Nights at Freddy Blumhouse, right, the movie, are looking for more horror games to adapt. So we'll see how that works. Microsoft claims that there's a PS5 Slim coming for $400. So I that was another thing I actually wanted to talk about. That maybe we'll hit that next time if I remember. Because we're in dangerous territory if those two are just going to start leaking each other's plans. Like, that's a new face of the console war, if that's the case.
Yeah, there are over 1,000. Well, I mean, approximately. They're going to have a different episode for every Pokemon.
Yeah.
But yeah, how can they legally, like, okay, we're going to get all this stuff through Discovery, and then we're just going to leak all your corporate secrets? I mean, that's bullshit.
Yeah, well, was that even through Discovery? I'm not sure. Because technically, so Microsoft and PlayStation know a lot about each other's companies anyway, because if a game that they're producing but don't own ends up on the other system, they get a lot of details about what's coming up from the company that's working with them. So it's all kind of like insider secrets. So I'm not sure if this was through Discovery or something that Microsoft just already knew because of the way the nature of the industry.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. There was another one that I wanted to mention real quick. Where was it? Oh, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is looking to make even less money than we thought before. Not even hit that 70 million that it thought was going to happen. It might only be 60 million, or it only hit 60 million for that weekend.
Oh, 60. Okay.
Yeah, it only hit the 60 million. It is not hitting the 70 that they claimed for, or they predicted for the opening weekend.
And is it this weekend that new Mission Impossible film comes out?
I don't know, but if it is, that's going to hurt Jones even harder.
It might be next weekend, but still, yeah, it's going to be rough.
How much does it cost to buy a 3DS if it's even still supported? It's not. Support for the 3DS ended. The eShop shut down, but that means it's the best time to mod and pirate. You'd have to basically buy a used one or find some shop that has an unsold one. Good luck on that part. But you're probably, I don't know, anywhere between $60 to $100 depending on the age of the 3DS that you're buying.
Looks about right. I'm seeing them anywhere from 67 up to 130.
Yeah, I didn't even have to look. I just kind of knew the market there. Yeah.
Google is your friend.
But yeah. They're going to struggle to make a profit after their $60 million debut. And that's it for the show.
Good luck.
You got anything else to say?
Kathleen Kennedy will never be fired. Don't even say
Oh,
it.
no, she won't.
Think it.
She's not going to be fired until they dissolve Lucasfilm and just keep the name for properties.
I guess,
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got to say. My back is killed,
Well,
so I'm going to go lie down.
thank you all for watching. If you enjoy the show, please share it with somebody else who might enjoy it or not. I don't really care if they'll enjoy it, but share it all the same. And if you really enjoy the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitorium live. Really helps us out, and we'll see you in the next episode, which may or may not be Saturday. I don't know. I may not be ready in time, but we'll keep you updated. Follow our Twitter or check for updates in the Discord. See ya.
See ya.